Today I'm going to read to you prophecies on a very sad topic. That will be how exactly are they going to carry out the campaign of marking the people with the mark of the beast, and how is it going to look like when they reach the final third stage of implementation. Because all kinds of biometric passports, cards with chip, and even implants seem to fit in the second stage of implementation of the mark, while the third will be distinctly different. An interesting clue is that in the English and Western sources we always read about marking with the mark of the beast. The verb marking is used, while in the Orthodox text I noticed the verb żygoswam. And that is a very specific kind of marking which is used for livestock branding, and it is usually applied with hot iron. So when I was translating that particular prophecy for the previous episode, I thought, well, I don't actually know how is żygoswam in English, so I started looking for the English verb, and it turned out that it doesn't even exist. And when people speak in English about this type of marking procedures, they use the verb marking, and then from the context it becomes clear what kind of marking. And that's why it is possible that when one reads the Bible in a modern language as a translation, some of the meaning about the exact marking technique which will be used is actually lost in the translation due to sheer lack of a modern word for this type of hot iron branding. Before the era of the barcodes and RQ codes and all this type of codes, Igumen Guri, some of whose prophecies were included in the previous episode, he was openly sent messages from the angels from the Lord that this is the beginning of the livestock branding, and he even drew from his visions how they will look like, and he sent printouts to all other Russian monasteries so the nuns and monks at that time are warned. And at that time monastic life was still very much a big thing in Russia. Even now it is to some extent compared to other countries, but there were countless monasteries with many thousands of real monks, and these people, of course, they were not wasting their entire lives of waiting for something to happen after they die. Many of them had real experiences, and interesting enough, when Igumen Guri received those messages, at the same time other most respectable and advanced monks were sent the message to listen to his message. I know that this thing with the widespread and very popular monastic life can be very difficult to imagine for many Western people. Actually, even for me, even for a Bulgarian person, it was strange. The only place I ever saw that was Romania very recently. There was a big monastery with many, many monks, almost after every second village. And all these Orthodox prophecies that I have collected, most of them are from Russia, but not all. There are also other prophecies from Slavic monks from the other Slavic regions. Even in those times, the more traditional people were very worried. This was a protest in those times. It says, yesterday, numbers, today, cards, tomorrow, the stamp of the Antichrist. Here, some people even made billboards, a loose translation of what it says. Yesterday, all these numbers, today, biometric, tomorrow, chip, in eternity, hell. And those who don't believe in the religious hell, they will see hell on earth, so it is true. So, we read in the Bible, this calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. That number is 666. Saint Kirill explained that the 3 digits of the number 6, either as written in digits or as barcode, he says like mesh and lines code, I guess it means barcode, this is only the business card of the Antichrist, his forerunner, while the actual proper number of the beast and the number of a man will be formed by the number of each person. In brackets it is specified, or they may have some sort of other name for it. Obviously some sort of ID number for their devilish computer. It will be exactly with that proper personal number only that one will be able to buy or sell anything. And that number will consist of groups of 6-digit numbers. All the other additional symbols and variations, like the 6-pointed star, passports, cards, etc., all that will be secondary. The main thing will be the personal number, which will be like a digital name, and that's how the devil, identify you. Neil Afonsky explains the vow of the stamp. It will be written, I'm yours forever, means loyal to the devil, and I'm doing this by my own will and not by force. I accept you by my own will only. The last document will be one world passport, and it will look like a small gray plate, means card probably. And when people receive it with the special equipment, they will be on their forehead or on the right hand tattooed with special rays 3 small 6 digits. The stamp will have like very slight green light, maybe at different angles, or like some sort of these modern logos that have kind of aura at particular angles. So the stamp will have slight green light, and initially people will only wear long sleeves or some sort of fashion on their foreheads to cover it, but eventually they will lose all shame and will openly walk around showing their stamps. Initially, when they will announce that they will be stamping people on their foreheads, not many will agree. That's why they will say, okay, we'll do it on the right hand. And then people will agree for the hand, and after that they will tell them that we have to put it on your forehead as well. Initially this number will be only on the card, but then they will say that it is more secure and more convenient if we stamp it direct on your body. So in the older prophecies made before the time of the barcodes, the Orthodox monks, they talk about the long lines, or they call it the mesh of lines. It's not sure if the final stage of marking will be again with barcode, since the overall abundance of barcodes is also one of the stages of marking, but in any case it proves the validity of these prophecies, because for now it is obvious for us, but it wasn't 50 or 100 years ago. And not only they saw the barcodes before they actually appeared, but also they described a society which will be forced into purely cashless transactions. Here is one out of the many such prophecies by Fadej Witovnitsky. The marking will be applied with invisible laser lace. That stamp will be invisible for the human eye, but the computer rays will read it, and only with the help of this rays in the shop they will have information of how much money you have. and it will be deducted at the moment. All purchases will be carried out without money whatsoever. While in the older prophecies they use different type of language, but it says basically the same thing. The mark of the beast will look like digits from the Old Testament Solomon treasury, like sticks, and 3 of them will be longer or shorter than the others, whatever they decide at that time, and that will be seen on all goods. The mark will look like a mesh and it will be found on all products so that they confuse the righteous people. So they also say that the lines will be 30. I was looking for information of how many lines are in the barcodes, and well, some sources say 90 or don't say anything at all. But I found a couple of barcodes around home, and I counted 2, 3 of them, and they all had exactly 30 lines. I don't know if that's a coincidence, but definitely in the old Orthodox prophecies they mention 30 lines, and some of them longer or shorter than the rest. One of these monks who lived recently enough to see and understand the chip and probably the implants said that no, it's not this one. It will be some sort of other technology that they will invent later on. And I think this tattoos, some sort of something tattoo like, or this Microsoft 060606 patent are better candidates than the implants. This is the official web page of the patent. They don't say exactly in clear detail what is it all about, but it seems to be a good candidate. I don't even know if they put these numbers on purpose, like 060606. Also in America, they had an infamous law recently connected with the corona madness. It was, of course, a devilish law, and again, it had the 666 in its number as a law. So I don't know even if they do it on purpose or just this is the way the patterns of the universe work, because this number is Middle Eastern ancient number of the devil. So no wonder that this number will be in use again, because the Antichrist again will use Middle Eastern bloodline. And of course he will use his own symbols again from that region. The priest Nikolai Rogozin described that the mark will be neutron mark, and there will be all digits mixed up so that people don't see the 666. Probably by neutron he just meant something high tech, or maybe neutron in particular. I don't understand that much of that type of technology. Here in another prophecy they describe the mark as consisting of numbers and passports, and the image will be like Kalishik. So I didn't know what is Kalishik, and I found all kinds of meanings of this word, like small long objects. Probably it just means lines, long lines. But most definitely, the way they describe the barcodes before their era actually began is a definite proof of the validity of these Orthodox prophecies. The prophecies also describe that sometimes along the roads people will be able to see silver coins, and nobody will even bother to bend down and collect them, because it will be impossible to buy anything with cash or even gold or silver. And there will be supervisors, overseers, the prophecies continue, who will control the fulfillment of the order of the Antichrist. I'm sure there will be. mostly beware of three things: seeing the beast and the cards, but most of all beware of the soul-losing mark, because for that there will be no repentance. That guarantees the destruction of the soul. When a person acquires the mark of the beast, his heart will be turning like dead. If your companion in life takes the mark of the beast, he will become like a foreign person. He will be no longer able to hear you. Basically, the offer of the Antichrist will be, take the seal and I will save you from the disasters. I will feed you. And he will indeed feed his people. Some prophecies say for 6 months. Mostly they say just for a very short period. But even that will turn out to be a lie, because there will be some provisions despite the very difficult conditions. They will exhaust them very fast when they introduce the mark of the beast, and then there will be nothing left very soon. Those who will not take the new documents with the satanic symbols, for them it will be easier to overcome the hunger, because those who take the stamp, their hunger will be multiplied 7 times. They will start even eating people. And this is most definitely true already. It is well known that highly advanced spiritual people, they are not bothered by hunger that much. Just their bodily feeling, their bodily distress is much less, while the people with lower consciousness, they become ferocious. They go mad looking for food. Actually, what happens in the bodies of the saintly people when they fast is the cells of their body, they turn into different mode that is programmed so already in the human body. And this new mode is self-sufficiency and feeding directly from the ether. And most importantly, thus acquiring kind of new light body which is nearer to the angelic realms. And will decree the Antichrist, his gang of evil spirits, to make arrangements that people will do 10 times more evil deeds. And here will come the true essence of the mark of the beast, which will be debauchery on all sides, murdering others, kidnapping them, openly stealing, shameless dishonesty and lies all around, torturing others, buying and selling people, buying and selling girls and boys for raping them on the streets like dogs. And this is not a modern prophecy, it's coming through very much, because our politicians, they are already in this gang. And as you can see, the bad ones, most of them, not all of them, as you can see, they are exhibiting exactly these qualities precisely, with the trading of people and trading of kids for raping. Sadly, this is one more confirmation that this grim situation is very likely to happen. But also it is the truth for those who are considering accepting the mark. What will be their future? That's what they will be doing few months probably after accepting the mark of the beast. And the most sad thing is that it will be happening literally months before the arrival of Christ. But it seems most people will not be able to wait. They will take the seal. Some out of hunger, some out in the name of the future of their children, because they will make it look like that without the seal any reputable education is absolutely impossible and the children will have no future. But of course, all these are lies. I mean, this will be coming from our politicians, and you will believe them? So here I'm trying hard to find some more positive sounding prophecies. It seems that mostly it will be a peaceful choice to make if you want to get stamped or not, and hopefully the cases of prisoners, as we saw in the previous episode, going house to stamp people, hopefully those will be like isolated cases, because here a saint replies, "They will be very polite," he means the stampers. "They will be well-bred, well-mannered Europeans. Oh, how noble will they behave! They will not torture the people. It will be just impossible to purchase anything or pay for anything without the stamp. Even if you have dollars or gold coins, nobody will accept them." It's interesting that it is a Russian prophecy and yet it says they will be Europeans. I can think of two possible explanations. I'm sure there are many more possible explanations. And the first one is that the Antichrist will be indeed the head of the European Union, which is a very much unconfirmed prophecy at this point. And the second one is that this monk is having visions from the European parts of Russia, because towards the end, Russia as such will be a very, very small country. It will be totally defeated. Most of its territories will be taken by China, some even by Japan, because their island will sink and they will have nowhere else to live. While what is now European parts of Russia, they will be simply taken over by the Western European countries. So will be the situation during the Great Tribulation. So maybe this prophecy is valid for the European parts of Russia. So the entire rule of the Antichrist will be 3.5 years. But when he comes, the system for the stamping people will be already established. Probably by then they will have these passports with chip or biometric or whatever, this small card or password will be probably introduced before that. And when he comes, he will come already with the suggestions of cashless transactions only and the proper stamp on the body. So if you want to keep track at that time in terms of how long is this madness gonna last, simply count 3.5 years from the time, as the prophecy said, the donkey steps in the beautiful newly built Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem. And how will the nature and Mother Earth react to this stamping? Earth itself will mourn the dejected sorrow, the sea will mourn, and the air, and the sun, and the wild beasts, together with the birds. The mountains and the hills will cry, and even the trees in the fields. And all that thanks to the clan of the humans who betrayed the Holy Spirit and gave in to the lies. They chose the greatest liar, the enemy of all godly, instead of the life-giving force of their own Savior. Almost all priests of all religions will also betray God, and of course they will be full of excuses. Usually it will be that, don't you see how well are the churches and temples maintained now? Everything is even better because the Antichrist will repair all temples and make them even more opulent than before, just so that he can get worshipped over there. Everything in all temples will be with the devices and codes for access. The priests will stand and do their services with the devices so that they are tracked at every single second. There are other versions of the number of the beast. Actually, the oldest, at least publicly available manuscript is like 616 and not 666. But ultimately, this doesn't even matter because it is the actual essence of the symbol which really matters and not its external manifestations so much. The root is important. And all these people who even write numerous books trying to decipher which person is actually meant by this number, I mean, there are volumes of calculations. Many of the people who are big time into this type of stuff, they will actually end up accepting that number, whatever it is, 616 or 600 or whatever, doesn't matter, they will accept it. If they carried away by the details to the point that they forget the essence and don't give proper attention to how to purify their soul and get prepared. And the same is valid, sadly, also for another group of people who are keenly interested into what will be exactly the technical details of the mark of the beast, how will they put it, and spending many hours into researching in details all the disgusting stuff which the servants of the devil are doing, because there are groups of people who are like the frontier line of introducing this devilish culture and civilization amongst us. So I see many people who are devoured, obsessed with hating those groups and making them effectively the central object of their meditation, which unfortunately leads to acquiring their qualities, because when you meditate too much on something, you become like that thing. One should stay informed and updated on the steps which the servants of the devil are taking. However, becoming obsessed, even out of pure hatred to them, will not help you personally to avoid their cobweb. Indeed, it will make its grip tighter. Because harmony and beauty will never sprout on the soil of hatred and desperation. Here I received a question which in my opinion is very important. What I'm wondering is why there is so much information on the Antichrist and hardly any about Jesus. Did any saint see Jesus? Were no visions given about him? Where is he from? What is his trade? How will he save the people? At least if we know who Jesus is, we can flock to him. Why didn't any saint predict Jesus? Surely he is more important than the Antichrist. And she says that she is fascinated by the series and she checks daily for new episodes. One of the last episodes will be about Jesus, but that will be one of the end episodes because he will come at the end of the tribulation. And in the previous episodes, actually, I did mention that many saints had visions of the second coming of Christ, but I think people simply ignore those because their nature is what most people would call not very practical. They want like the real person so that they can flock around him, exactly as it is said in the question. No, this is not gonna happen because this is exactly what he wants to teach us. How to use our own godlike powers when we create the reality around us. Instead of perpetually looking for an external agency to flock to. Or to be precise, towards the end it won't be so much teaching as actually an exam. Who has learned to do that and who hasn't. That's why I'm always recommending this technique. And yes, there will be two ways to flock around Jesus during the tribulation. And the first one will be simply following his path of light during the difficult times, not taking the stamp of the Antichrist, praying daily, and basically, even in the most difficult moments, still maintain that internal harmony and never give in to hatred and desperation. So to flock to Jesus during the tribulation will mean to flock to his prophecies and to the way of light and not accepting anything devilish. No signs, no passports, no marks, nothing. Those mystics who are lucky, they will also have another way to flock to Jesus during his earthly incarnation. They will know who he is very well even during the tribulation. This will be mostly his own circle of people, but also advanced mystics who have already developed that power to be able to peek behind the scenes where the theater is being produced, the theater of this life. And that's why, again, I'm recommending you this technique now. We've got a couple of years left before the final stage of the marking. And since we live in times of very special changes in the cosmic energies, meditative techniques now may give faster results than they would do, let's say, a couple of 100 years ago. So this technique is worth trying. That will increase your chances to have the topmost spiritual gossip before, a few years before everybody gets it. Where is Christ? How does he live? What is he doing? And now back to your question. Where is he from? What is his trade? Well, the better prophecies, they all seem to tend towards this version that Christ is already born and he is now growing up somewhere. But even the most reliable source, the Seth material, he frankly tells us he is getting born now. That's about 40 something years ago. But Seth says, but I'm not gonna specify his place of birth or any other details because that will spoil the theater when the end times come. Imagine you go to a theater performance and all of a sudden they lift up the background, and instead of those painted houses or dragons or whatever, you actually see the theater stuff behind, putting makeup on the artists or dressing them or dictating them on the headsets what to say during the play. I mean, if you see all that, the play wouldn't seem so real. So if God, our well-wisher, has created this entire performance, well, maybe he had something in mind. Maybe it is not as bad as it seems, and the idea to participate in it. Don't forget that we have plentiful evidence that the souls do decide in what to participate themselves before they get born. So maybe we also had something in mind when we embarked on this journey. Maybe and hopefully it will be exactly as Alexander Paramonov said, very, very difficult, but most definitely worth it as an experience. And then as far as your actual question, how is he gonna practically save the people? During the tribulation, it seems, as much as I know from the prophecies, he will be doing it kind of undercover without revealing his identity openly. And the best detail is given by Alexander Paramonov, at least I believe so. He says that the exact scenario of the events will be constantly recalculated so that the biggest amount of people manage to get purified. Plus, according to him and Otrok Vyacheslav, there will be many surprises from Christ and his companions, but they don't tell us what are the surprises. So that's gonna be his trade, as you say, during the tribulation, and towards the last months of the Great Tribulation, he will openly descend and reveal his identity together with his companions. He will kill the Antichrist, and then together with a very small army which has been fighting the Antichrist, it seems he will be gradually making his way westwards and restoring righteous kingdoms in Europe and eventually everywhere else. And then during the new millennium, he will be saving the people by creating kingdoms of amazing beauty on earth, restoring the earth, as the prophecy says, to its ancient state. I think the best description of those kingdoms will be the description of the higher realms from this video. So his actual trade before the second advent, which will be the public advent, he will be a theater director, theater of the end time play. And after the advent, he will be a crowned king of the earth. And one more question, which I personally think it's also very important. Is it possible that some people can rub off the mark from their soul if their level of consciousness is very high since birth? Yes, from the prophecies I have read so far, there were two relevant pieces of information. The first one is from the Nina prophecies and exactly from the Day of Judgment. So basically, those who had a better start in life, more will be expected from them, and if they fail the final exam, the reaction will be more severe for them. And it's not just a reaction for openly betraying by vow the Lord of the Light, our Creator. It's not a personal fuss on his side. Oh, he spoke against me and I'm gonna punish him because of this fashionable tattoo on his forehead. No, the reality is that one simply will experience himself what he did to others, and by subscribing to this Antichrist gang, one will be eventually taking part in one capacity or another in murder, torture, trading people, selling children for raping and doing it on the streets. That is this stamping all about, that one voluntarily agrees for possession of evil spirits to carry out such things. All the other stuff are details and decoration, like artificially created financial crisis, artificially created hunger, revolutions. All this will be instigated and staged for this single thing, that you vow that I am the follower of the Antichrist and I am open for possession. And the second relevant piece of information, I think, was in the episode about Gehenna, where she mentions that those who knew more, who were more advanced, more educated, they should have known better. They should not have made the wrong choice. And for them, the punishment will be more. And I also believe, according to civil law and common sense, when one commits a crime willingly and understanding very well consciously what one is doing, the punishment is more. So from a very good number of prophecies, we also find out that not only the bad people will be misled by the Antichrist, he will manage to sink the souls of even good people, many of them. Now, how will that happen in the case of people, exactly as you say, those who have high consciousness since birth? At the point at which they finally realize that, oh yes, the end times are here and I have to choose, I have to decide about the marking, if they are not well prepared, well armed with knowledge from the various prophecies which they can do from this series, for example, that's why I have so many episodes, I want to cover everything possible. If they don't have this armor of the proper knowledge, at that time they will start shopping for philosophies or an idea of how to escape the imminent extreme difficulties. And if there is somewhere leakage, some small quality they have not finely polished, some mistake in their belief system, they may take shelter in some sort of guru or whatever, some sort of philosophy they find. That, you see, life is created for enjoyment, and actually God did not meant to keep you hungry, and that's why you can accept the mark, but it will not be so bad, because you see there is no other way, it's a matter of necessity, and it will be understood by God, and actually you can accept the mark. Remember my words, in those times it will be very popular, the opinion that because of the difficult times we have to make compromises. So you have to make this small compromise with the mark. This will be a very, very popular philosophy at that time. It is not a bad philosophy, because indeed one has to make minor compromises of bearing with not very luxurious food for a short time because of the main thing. And the main thing is proving during this exam that you will never bow down to evil and consent to turning into a devil yourself. That is the main thing, and the compromises should be made, indeed, with the smaller things like having poor meals for a short period of time. But many people will believe the liars and get neither good nutrition in long term, neither anything else of the promised future with education and money, and everything will be ruined. They will be suffering even from worst hunger and everything else possible in this life already, what to speak of the future destinations. And why will they fall in this trap? Because when I'm telling you now, never ever believe those politicians. It will be the same people, or at least their successors, which will be of the same nature. Those who have created, who have already organized world wars, and by the time of the marking they will organize even one more world war, the same party who organized the two world wars. Those who have, you know for sure that they have organized starvations in Africa and in so many ways. They are organizing all these artificial crises and viruses and disturbing the lives of so many people. You will believe those people when they promise you food and future and everything else? Really? You will believe them instead of the prophecies of the saintly people who have proven with their entire lives that they are indeed worthy of admiration? Whoever will decide to follow the liars, although deep inside they will agree, yes, they are liars, they are politicians, and so on and so on, this will be the people who are making this excuse just because deeply inside they are somehow justifying them because they themselves have some cheating still deeply left in their heart. And that's why they are not so disgusted with the liars, disgusted enough not to listen them and not to believe them about anything. And because of this, it could be even very tiny and small affiliation to some sort of deceit and cheating somewhere deep inside what most people call subconscious psyche. Because of that, these people will fall in the trap of the worst thing you can imagine, believing the worst liars we know of, our politicians. And the way it will practically play out is that when actually the Antichrist comes, this type of people will be still doubtful. That's how they will feel. And that's why they will say, oh, let's listen and analyze everything carefully so that I take the right decision. And they will start very carefully listening to the Antichrist. And as I warned you, and all the saints warned you already of this big danger, that once you start like listening to his speech and looking at him directly in the eyes, he's one of the gods. This black magic is very powerful. It will swallow you. And that's why all these warnings, countless warnings in all the prophecies from all sides, when the devil comes, when the Antichrist comes, just stay away from all his images and philosophies and whatever he convinces you or promises. It will be all lie anyway. Nor it will be difficult to recognize him. He will be the one who will step in the newly built Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem and come up with this fantastic idea for one world government and one world electronic cashless currency. Those who, instead of making timely arrangements for some sort of existence on the land outside the cities, remain hesitant, they will most likely get trapped, because until the last moment they will be spending their time in front of the computer or the TV trying to decipher the latest steps of the corrupt politicians. And unfortunately that may end up being the end of this type of people, because soon they will read this announcement that those who don't have the mark, they will be cut off from water, electricity, and they won't be able to purchase anything. And then they will be like really cornered. They will have nowhere to go. Will they really purchase a tent and run to the woods that very same hour when they hear that? Probably not, because if they were that brave and that wise, they would have made their arrangements a couple of years prior to that, which in the historic timeline is exactly at the point at which we are as of today, which is year 2020. And coming back to your question, after all, the soul is not harmable ultimately. Why not rub off the mark then? Now, this is exactly the type of philosophy that the Antichrist will be preaching. Is the soul ultimately unharmable? Absolute truth. However, will repeating that philosophical motto help? The people, when the time comes to bear the fruits of the terrible things they will be doing after accepting the mark of the beast? No, unfortunately, repeating that philosophical motto will not save them from the pain and all other terrible calamities which they will have to endure. And as far as rubbing off sins or wrong vows, in general, as Hinduism, Islam, the set teachings, Christianity all testify, it is possible to some extent by repentance, by doing good deeds. It is possible partially, but unfortunately not completely, and regardless of your belief in hell existing or not, it is obvious that there are plenty of hellish experiences on earth. Painful sicknesses, tortures in the prisons, and many other things. If stains on your soul were washable just like that by wishing and well-wishing and thinking positively, as some people try to convince us, nobody would be suffering in that way. In addition to that, all sources mention that there are sins for which there is no repentance, there is no atonement, they cannot be washed off. And unfortunately, in Islam, in Christianity, and in all prophecies, it is repeated hundreds of times that accepting the mark of the beast will something that cannot be forgiven. So banking on the hope that one will be able to rub it off, based on everything I have found so far, is a really, really bad idea.